Hi kids, we are ready for chapter 3 in the Trolley Car Family by Eleanor Clymer. The title of the chapter is The Plans Are Laid. Sally, Bill, and George could hardly wait for the school day to be over that day. At least 3 times during the morning and 4 times during the afternoon, each of them had to be told by the teacher to stop wriggling and pay attention. And when the 3 o'clock bell finally did ring, all 3 of them ran so fast they almost bumped into each other at the gate. They ran all the way home. There was Ma sitting on the front porch, calmly rocking with Peter in her lap. "My goodness, Ma, how can you sit there like that? Where's Pa?" Sally demanded. "He went to the streetcar company." "You mean to find out about the land?" said Bill. "Yes." "And he hasn't come home yet?" "No." "Did he find another horse?" "I don't know." "There he comes now," said George. The 3 children raced up the street to meet him. Pa looked much more cheerful than he had looked this morning. In fact, he was grinning. He wouldn't say a word until he climbed the porch steps and sat down in the other rocking chair. "Well, Pa?" Sally asked. "Well, what?" said Pa in a very aggravating tone. "Well, what did they say?" "They said all right," said Pa. "They said they'd rent us some land for the whole summer." Then he stopped. The children waited for him to go on. They sat down on the steps. "Well, tell us the whole story," said Ma impatiently. Whenever you have something real interesting to tell, you keep stopping and starting just like your own streetcar. "All right," said Pa. "They said that there's an old farm about 10 miles from the edge of town, between here and Taylorville. That's farther than we've ever walked for a picnic, way out from the end of this car line. The farm belongs to the car company. They were going to have a car barn there, but they never did. Just let it lay. Say they'll rent it to us." "Is there a house there?" Ma asked. "No," Pa shook his head. "House burned down or fell apart or something. Just the land and some kind of shed or barn." "When can we go?" Bill asked. He didn't care about houses. All he wanted was a baseball diamond. "Is there a place to swim?" George asked. Peter climbed up on his father's knee. "Horse?" he inquired. Sally laughed. "He thinks every time he says horse we'll all take notice of him." "That's true," said Pa. "All we need now is a couple of horses. I couldn't find anybody that knew about horses." "Horse," said Peter. "Horse over there." He pointed over to Mr. Jefferson's yard. The family looked. There was Mr. Jefferson himself on the other side of the fence. Sally laughed and hugged Peter. "That's Mr. Jefferson, honey. Hello, Mr. Jefferson. We can have the land. Pa just found out." "But we haven't got a horse yet," said Bill. "Well, I was over to the dairy company this morning," said Mr. Jefferson. "That's when you're supposed to sleep," George interrupted. "Hush, Georgie," Ma said. "Don't interrupt." "Well, I couldn't get to sleep," said Mr. Jefferson, "so I went over there, and it seems that they have a couple of extra horses that aren't working this week, and they'll lend us one." Pa said, "That was real nice of you, Mr. Jefferson. I could have gone over there myself, but I'm much obliged to you, much obliged." "That's all right," said Mr. Jefferson. "I figured they knew me, and if they had a horse, they'd let me have him. I'm the only milkman that has his own horse, and that saves them a lot of money, seeing they don't have to feed him, so they don't mind lending me a horse." "Well, if you'll lend us your Whitey, and we get this other horse from the dairy, we're all set," said Pa. "Soon as I get the car towed out to where we're going, I'll get the horses back to you." "How are you going to do that, Pa?" George asked. "Well, I'll ride one and lead the other," said Pa. "Think I can't ride a horse?" "No, Pa, but how will you get back to the car?" "Why, I'll ride my bicycle. I'll leave the bicycle here and then ride it back." "That's a very smart idea," said Ma. But Sally said, "I have a better one. Why doesn't Mr. Jefferson come with us?" Everybody stared at her. Then Bill burst out, "That's a swell idea." And Pa and Ma nodded and said, "It certainly is. What about it, Mr. Jefferson?" Mr. Jefferson looked puzzled, just as he had that morning when he found himself offering the Parkers his horse. "Oh, now, I don't know," he said, scowling. "Wait a minute. I don't think I could do that." "Oh, why not?" Sally cried. She ran down the steps and over to the fence. "We'd have a lot of fun, and I bet you need a vacation, and we'd be very quiet. We'd let you sleep as much as you wanted." Said Mr. Jefferson, trying to look very cross, but he wasn't succeeding very well. "Well, all right," he muttered. Guess I do need a vacation. I'll do it. But only for a few days. Can't spare more than that." "Now, Mr. Jefferson," said Ma, "you ought to take at least a week. You haven't had a change in a long time. You've been working at night and sleeping in the daytime." "Trying to sleep, you mean," said Pa. "You ought to get some sunshine on you," Ma went on, "and a good hot breakfast in the morning." "Oh, maybe you're right," said Mr. Jefferson. "Maybe I do need a rest. I'll think about it." Then Whitey could have a vacation too, after he got done hauling the trolley car. "Hooray!" shouted Bill. Now he could have Whitey around for a whole week. That evening after supper, Bill and George were having batting practice out in the yard. Ma and Pa were sitting on the porch. Sally was playing ball with Peter to keep him out of the big boy's way. Suddenly Bill stopped with his bat in the air and called, "Look at Mr. Jefferson." There was Mr. Jefferson, leaning on the fence. He had a big straw hat stuck on the back of his head. There he is. "Hello," Mr. Jefferson called back, and then, as they watched, something happened, something that had not happened in a long time. His face wrinkled up, and his mouth stretched, and he grinned at him. It wasn't much of a grin, but it was a grin. Then he spoke. "It's all settled. I'm taking a week's vacation. I'm not used to being up all day and in bed at night, and I might not like it, but I'm willing to try." The children all shouted, "Hooray! Oh, boy!" At the noise, old Whitey stuck his long white face out of the window of the stable, and they all laughed so hard the tears ran down their cheeks. Whitey had a little straw hat on, just like Mr. Jefferson's, only Whitey's hat had 2 holes in the brim for his ears to stick through. "What's that for?" Sally asked as soon as she could talk. "If you'll stop laughing," said Mr. Jefferson, "I'll explain. Whitey is a night horse. He's not used to the sun. I don't want him to get sunstroke, and if he's going to pull a big old trolley car out in the middle of a field somewhere, he's got to wear his sun hat." Whitey tossed his head and whinnied. "Yeah, yeah, yeah." "Sounds as if he's laughing too," said Bill. "It does sound that way," said Mr. Jefferson, "but he isn't. I can tell when he's laughing." "What's he doing then?" Bill asked. "He's complaining," said Mr. Jefferson. "He doesn't like the hat." "Oh, let's give him something to make him feel better," said Sally. "I'll get some sugar cubes." "I have some right here," said Mr. Jefferson, putting his hand in his pocket. "Always carry it with me." Bill climbed over the fence and took the lump of sugar from Mr. Jefferson, holding it out to Whitey, whose big soft lips tickled the palm of his hand. Bill stroked the long, smooth nose. "I never thought of that," said George, "that Bill would be on that side of the fence. I never thought." With Mr. Jefferson standing there and watching him. Everybody laughed at that except Mrs. Parker. She got up from her chair and walked to the end of the porch. "Georgie," she said, "we all know what you meant by what you said just now, only you didn't say it quite right. That's why we laughed. But I want to tell Mr. Jefferson the same way, only in a different way. The same thing, only in a different way. Mr. Jefferson," she went on, "we've been neighbors for a long time, and somehow we never got to be friendly. But it seems people have to be in trouble before they learn to know they're real friends. And you have certainly proved to be a real friend. Here everything is settled, and it's all on account of you. If you can stand having these noisy young ones around you, we'd be proud to have you come and stay with us for as long as you'd like to stay, and I'm sure everybody here thinks the same." After this long speech, Ma wiped her eyes with her apron and looked around at her family. They were all smiling as hard as they could smile. Mr. Jefferson scratched his chin. "It's a long time since I've lived with a family," he said, "but I'm willing to try if you are. And it wasn't all on account of me. The whole idea was Sally's and Bill's and George's and Peter's." Ma beamed at her family. "I always knew it was right to include the children in a family conference," she said. End of chapter.